My precious one, come and sit with me in the quiet truth of this moment. We are going to speak of something you carry, not a physical object, but a memory made of pain, a moment crystallized into a permanent ache within your soul. You know it well. You have felt its weight for years, perhaps for decades. You call it your old wound. And today, I invite you to see it through a completely new lens. I want to propose a radical shift in perspective. What if this wound is not just a burden to be removed, but a potential offering to be given? For so long, you have seen this old hurt as a mark of defeat, a stain on your history, a piece of evidence in the case against your own happiness or worth. You have hidden it, ashamed. You have protected it, fearing it might be touched and bleed afresh. You have resented it, wondering why I allowed it to happen. You have carried it like a secret stone in your pocket, its weight pulling you off balance, its edges rubbing you raw with every movement. You have prayed for me to simply take it away, to erase it, to perform a divine surgery that leaves no scar. And I have heard every one of those prayers. But what if my ultimate goal is not merely to remove the stone, but to transform it? What if the very thing you've been trying to discard is the raw material for a sacred offering? In the temples of old, my people did not bring me their perfection. They brought me their brokenness. The fractured lamb, the spilled oil, the crushed grain. They brought the work of their hands, yes, but also the evidence of their struggle, their dependence, their need. And in the fire of my presence, those offerings were transformed. The smoke became a sweet aroma. The brokenness became communion. Your old wound is your unoffered brokenness. It is pain you have kept for yourself, hoarded in the dark, believing it to be only yours to bear, or worse, yours to cherish as proof of your victimhood or your righteousness. But I am calling it forth, not to shame you for holding it, but to invite you to a higher use for it. Look at this wound with me, not with the eyes of self-pity or rage, but with the eyes of a sacred archaeologist. What is it made of? Is it the shard of a betrayal? The sharp, surprising piece that pierced your trust? Is it the heavy clay of abandonment? The cold, shapeless weight of being left alone? Is it the brittle glass of humiliation? The fragmented memory of a moment your dignity was shattered? Is it the rusted metal of injustice? The unfair outcome that still grates against your soul's sense of order? These are the materials, hard, cold, and painful. In your hands they are just burdens. But placed in my hands, on the altar of my grace, they become something else entirely. The fire of my spirit does not destroy them, it transmutes them. The shard of betrayal can become a prism that refracts my faithful love in new ways. The clay of abandonment can be reshaped into a vessel of profound companionship for the lonely. The glass of humiliation, when melted in my mercy, can become a lens of deep humility and compassion. The metal of injustice, heated in the fires of my righteous judgment, can be forged into a tool for defending the weak. This is the first and most crucial step to change your relationship to the wound. Stop seeing it as your enemy, as a flaw in your design. Start seeing it as potential sacred material. This does not mean you are glad it happened. It does not mean you excuse the one who caused it. It means you are refusing to let the pain have the final say. You are declaring, this thing meant for my destruction, I now choose to place in the hands of my Creator. Do with it what only you can do. So today, in this quiet moment, I am not asking you to let the wound go. I am only asking you to consider handing it to me. Hold it out in your mind's eye. Feel its familiar weight. And then, with a whisper of trust, say, Lord, this is my old wound. I have carried it as a burden. I now present it to you as an offering. I don't know what you can make of it, but I give it to you. This simple act of reframing is the beginning of your freedom. You have just turned a prison into a potential temple. The weight hasn't vanished, but its nature has begun to change. It is no longer just your pain. It is now our project. and I am the master artisan of redemption. Will you trust me with the materials of your deepest hurt? My beloved, having considered the possibility that your wound could become an offering, we must now establish the sacred space where this holy transaction occurs. This is not a physical place you can visit, but a spiritual reality you must cultivate. It is the altar of your heart. For too long, your heart has felt like a battleground, a storage room, or a locked chamber. Today, I invite you to reconsecrate it as a living altar, a place where what is laid down is transformed by the fire of my presence. In the ancient times, my people built altars of stone. They were specific, designated places where heaven and earth met, where the ordinary touched the divine, where the offering was consumed and transformed. Your heart is meant to be that altar now, not of cold stone, but of warm, beating flesh. A living altar where your will and my spirit commune. The altar is not a place for hiding, it is a place for revealing. It is not a place for preserving, it is a place for presenting. On this altar, the wound you have protected in darkness is brought into the consuming light of my love. How do you find this altar within? You begin with intentional stillness. You quiet the noise of your mind, the rehearsals of the past, the anxieties of the future, the opinions of others. You turn down the volume of the world and turn up the frequency of your spirit. You come into that inner chamber where only you and I meet. This is the Holy of Holies within you. It may feel small, distant, or unfamiliar at first, but it is there. I have placed eternity in your heart, and at its center is a space cleared for worship. This is your altar. At this altar, you are both the priest and the offering. You bring the raw material of your pain, and you present it. This act of presentation is crucial. It is different from brooding over the pain or analyzing it. It is a deliberate, willful act of sacrifice. You are saying, "This hurt, this memory, this bitterness. I no longer wish to use it as fuel for my anger or my sadness. I choose to lay it here, on this altar, as an offering to you. I give up my right to use this pain for my own purposes." This is where transformation begins, the moment you relinquish ownership. Imagine your old wound as a piece of rough, cold iron. In your hands, it is useless and heavy. You can only carry it or throw it in anger. But when you place it on the altar, you are placing it in the divine forge. My presence is the fire. This is not a fire of destruction, but a fire of purification and purpose. It heats the iron until it becomes malleable. It burns away the impurities, the resentment, the victimhood, the toxic attachments. What remains is the essential metal of the experience, now ready to be shaped by my hand into something useful, something beautiful. But my child, you must understand the nature of this fire. It is the fire of my love. Perfect love casts out fear. This sacred fire will burn, but it will not annihilate you. It will sear, but only to sterilize the infection of the past. It will be hot, but it is the heat that softens and prepares you for reshaping. You will feel it as a deep conviction, a sorrow for sin, yours and others, a poignant release, a surge of grace. The tears you shed at this altar are the water that mixes with the ashes, creating the clay of a new beginning. I meet you at this altar. I am the high priest of this offering. I stand with you, my hands over yours, as you lay down the burden. I hear the crackle of the pain in the flames. I smell the scent of your surrender, and to me, it is a sweet aroma. I receive what you give, not with disdain, but with sacred pleasure, because your trust in this moment is the fragrance of true worship. You are not coming to a distant, indifferent deity. You are coming to a Father who was wounded for your transgressions, who bears the scars of love. I understand the language of wounds, and at this altar, my wounds and yours meet, and in that meeting, healing is exchanged. You may need to come to this altar many times. The old wound may have layers, the initial hurt, the decisions you made because of it, the ways it has shaped your behavior. Each layer may require its own moment of surrender. Do not be discouraged. This is not failure. It is faithfulness. Each visit to the altar deepens the transformation. Each act of laying down weakens the wound's hold, and each encounter with my fire makes you more radiant, more pliable in my hands. So today, my precious one, I ask you to build this altar in your heart. In your quiet time, envision it. See the stones of your trust stacked high. See the fire of my spirit burning brightly. And then, bring that old wound, the specific one we are working on, and lay it down. Do not rush away. Stay a while in my presence. Watch what happens. You may not see a dramatic change instantly, but know this: the transaction has been initiated. The process of transmutation has begun. Your heart is no longer a tomb for dead pain. It is an altar for living sacrifice. And on this altar, your deepest hurt will become your highest praise. My precious one, on the altar of your heart, you have laid down the wound itself. But now we must address what often clings to that wound more tenaciously than the pain: the need for vindication. This is the silent, persistent whisper that says, "But they must know what they did. They must admit they were wrong. They must feel sorry. The world must see that I was the one who was hurt." This need is like a bitter resin mixed with your offering. Today we shall separate it, that it may be burned as a distinct incense, the incense of surrender, releasing you from a prison of your own making. This need is deeply human, my child. When you are wronged, your spirit cries out for the moral universe to right itself. You want the scales balanced. You want the record set straight. You want an apology, an acknowledgement, a moment where the offender looks you in the eye and says, "You did not deserve that. I was wrong." This desire feels like justice, but when that moment does not come, and it often does not, this unmet need ferments. It turns from a desire for justice into a demand for restitution that you are powerless to enforce. It becomes a silent lawsuit you are constantly prosecuting in the courtroom of your mind, where you are the wronged plaintiff, the aggrieved judge, and the weary bailiff all at once. Holding this need is exhausting. It ties your emotional state to someone else's capacity for humility or insight. It makes you a hostage to their conscience. You check your inner ledger. Have they paid yet? Do they see? And with each no, the wound is not just remembered, it is re-inflicted. You are waiting at a door for a knock that may never come, while I am standing at an open gate behind you, calling you to walk free into a spacious land where your worth is not contingent on their confession. The incense of surrender is the act of taking this entire case, the evidence, the grievances, the unspoken sentences, and placing it on the coals of the altar. It is you saying, "I surrender my right to be vindicated by them. I relinquish my need for them to understand my pain or admit their fault. I transfer the entire proceeding to your court, Lord, where all judgments are true and all mercy is just." This is perhaps the most difficult part of the offering. It feels like you are letting them win, like you are absolving them of consequence. But you are not. You are transferring consequence to the only one who can administer it perfectly. You are acknowledging a liberating truth. You are not their Holy Spirit. It is not your job to convict them, to punish them, or to extract an apology. Your job is to be free, and you cannot be free while you are waiting in their waiting room. Watch this incense as it burns. The smoke is not the gray of defeat. It is the gold of trust. As it rises, it carries away the toxic fumes of bitterness, the heavy smoke of resentment, the acrid smell of what should have been. What is left in your heart is not approval of what happened, but a quiet, clean space. The space where their opinion, their acknowledgement, their remorse used to reside is now vacant, ready to be filled by my perfect peace and my affirmation of your worth. I know this is hard. Look at my example. On the cross, wounded beyond measure by the betrayal of friends, the cruelty of enemies, and the silence of heaven, did I demand vindication? Did I cry for them to understand? I uttered, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." In that moment, I surrendered my right to earthly justice and entrusted all vindication to the Father. And in doing so, I broke the very power of the injustice. My surrender became the catalyst for the world's redemption. Your surrender, on your scale, becomes the catalyst for your own. So how do you release this need? You do it in prayer, specifically and concretely. 1. Name it. Lord, I surrender my need for name to apologize. I release my demand for them to see how they hurt me. 2. Transfer it. I place this need on your altar. I trust you to deal with them in your perfect wisdom and timing. Their response is now your business, not mine. 3. Receive the exchange. I receive your peace in this empty space. I accept your vindication of me as your beloved child. Your opinion of me is the only one that defines me. You may need to do this daily, as the old need tries to reassert itself. Each time you do, you are burning another handful of this sacred incense. The fragrance of your surrender is more pleasing to me than 1,000 forced apologies. It is the smell of a soul growing up into the liberty of Christ. My beloved, when you release the need for others to validate your pain, you are not saying the pain wasn't real. You are declaring that my validation is more real, more powerful, and more than enough. You are stepping out of the prisoner's dock and into the royal chamber. You are no longer a victim, pleading your case. You are a child, resting in your Father's justice. Let this incense rise today. Let the sweet smell of trust fill the atmosphere of your heart. For in this surrender, you will find a freedom so profound it will feel like your first deep breath in years. The wound can truly begin to heal because you have stopped picking at it, waiting for someone else to see the scar. My precious one, you have come to the altar. You have laid down the wound itself, and you have surrendered the bitter incense of your need for vindication. Now we stand at the threshold of the miracle. We are about to witness the divine alchemy at the very heart of my kingdom. This is the moment of sacred exchange. It is not merely letting go, it is receiving in return. You are not just dropping a burden into a void. You are placing a weight into my hands and opening your own hands to receive the gift I have been holding for you all along. In the natural economy, loss is just loss. You let go of something and you have less. But in my kingdom's economy, the economy of grace, every release creates space for a greater reception. Every death seeds a resurrection. This is the immutable law of the cross, and it applies to your deepest hurts. When you offer me your pain with a surrendered heart, you are engaging in a holy trade. You are trading your pain for my purpose. What does this mean? It means I take the raw, chaotic, destructive energy of that old wound, and I transform it. I sanctify it. I redirect its power. The memory that once fueled nightmares now fuels intercession. The empathy born from your betrayal now becomes a radar to detect the hidden pain in others. The resilience forged in your season of abandonment becomes a pillar others can lean on. The specific understanding you gained in your valley becomes a map you can offer to the next traveler. I do not waste a single tear, a single ache. In my hands, the poison becomes the antidote. The weapon that was meant to destroy you is melted down and reforged into a tool for building my kingdom. This is what I did with the cross. The worst instrument of torture and shame, the cross, was transformed through my surrender into the ultimate tool of redemption and victory. Your pain, offered to me, undergoes a similar transformation. It is no longer about you and what happened to you. It becomes about me and what I can do through what happened to you. Your story shifts from a closed case of personal injury to an open, ongoing testimony of my restorative power. Think of Joseph. The pit, the slavery, the false accusation. These were profound wounds. He could have carried them as lifelong burdens of bitterness. But when he finally saw my purpose, he said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." His wounds, offered to my sovereign plan, became the very instruments that positioned him to save nations. Your wounds, offered on the altar, are being positioned similarly. Not necessarily to save nations in the geopolitical sense, but to bring life, hope, and salvation to the nations of people around you, your family, your community, the souls I place in your path. This exchange requires active trust. You must believe that what I have to give is better than what you are releasing. You are releasing the familiar, even if it is painful. You are releasing your old story, your old identity as the wounded one. In return, I am offering a new story and a new identity. The redeemed wound-bearer, the one who comforts, the living testimony. This can feel frightening. The pain is known, the purpose is unknown. But this is where faith intersects with your healing. You say, "I trust you, Jesus, not only to take this, but to use it. I exchange my right to nurse this hurt for the privilege of seeing you redeem it." So, in this moment, at the altar, after the surrender, I want you to open your hands. Palms up. Empty. Do not clutch at the air where the pain used to be. Hold them open, expectantly. This is the posture of reception. And into those open hands, I place my gift. I place purpose, a sense of meaning that transcends the why of the past. I place authority, a spiritual strength in the very area where you were once weak. I place compassion, a depth of love for the broken that only the broken-hearted can truly carry. I place a story, your testimony, which is now more powerful than your theory. I place my peace, the shalom that guards your heart and mind, not based on circumstance, but based on completed exchange. This is the sacred trade. Your ashes for my beauty, your mourning for the oil of my joy, your faint spirit for my garment of praise. This is not a metaphor, my beloved. This is a spiritual transaction recorded in the ledgers of heaven. The moment you release it in faith, I mark it paid in full and issue the dividends of grace. Do not look for the purpose to manifest instantly in its full, grand form. It begins as a seed, a gentle nudge to speak to someone, a sudden insight while reading my word, a quiet confidence where there used to be fear. Water these seeds with obedience. Follow the nudges. Speak the insights. Walk in the confidence. As you do, you will see the purpose grow. You will see how your past pain uniquely equips you for present ministry. You are no longer just a survivor. You are a steward of a sacred story. You are a trader in the commodities of grace, turning the lead of human hurt into the gold of divine purpose. This is the deeper form of offering. It is the offering that keeps on giving, to you, to me, and to everyone I will touch through your healed and purposeful heart. The exchange is made. The trade is complete. Now, walk forward in your new identity, carrying not a wound, but a purpose, carrying not a burden, but a gift. My precious one, we have journeyed to the altar, surrendered our need for vindication, and initiated the sacred exchange. Now, we arrive at the most profound, liberating, and challenging step of all. This is the moment when you take the last thread, the one that still ties your heart to the one who hurt you, and with the scissors of my grace, you cut it. This is not merely an emotional decision. It is a spiritual declaration of independence. This is forgiveness, the final unbinding. You have carried this thread for so long, you may have mistaken it for a part of your own soul. It is the thread of resentment, the cord of bitterness, the string that connects your peace to their past action. Every time you think of them, you feel a tug. Every time you remember, the cord tightens. It has kept you bound to that moment, that person, that pain. You have offered the wound, but if you have not forgiven, you have left this one thread attached, and it can unravel all the progress you have made. I must clarify what forgiveness is not, for so many carry a heavy false definition. Forgiveness is not approval of what was done. It does not mean what happened was acceptable, trivial, or without consequence. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. That requires two willing parties and the rebuilding of trust, which may or may not be wise or possible. Forgiveness is not forgetting. You are not asked to erase your memory, but to redeem its power over you. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a choice made in the will, often long before the emotions align. Forgiveness, in its purest form, is relinquishing your right to collect on a debt. It is you, as the creditor, standing before me and saying, "This person owes me a debt of apology, of remorse, of restitution. But I choose to cancel the debt. I will no longer hold it against them. I will no longer wait for payment. I transfer the account to your divine ledger." When you do this, you are not saying the debt never existed. You are saying you are closing the collection agency of your own heart. You are firing yourself from the job of being their judge and jailer. Why is this the final unbinding? Because as long as you hold the debt, you are in a relationship with that person, a relationship defined by their past wrong. You are tied to them by the chain of unforgiveness. You may have no contact, but in your spirit, you are still connected by a toxic bond. Forgiveness is the act of dissolving that bond. It is the spiritual surgery that severs the unhealthy soul tie and allows you to walk away free, leaving the weight of their action at the foot of my cross, where all debts are settled. I hear your heart's protest, but they don't deserve it. You are absolutely right. That is why it is called grace. Grace is undeserved favor. You are extending to them a fraction of the immeasurable grace I have extended to you. When you were my enemy, steeped in sin, I died for you. I forgave you a debt you could never pay. I canceled the record of charges that stood against you. I am not asking you to do something I have not already done for you, on a scale infinitely grander. I am inviting you to participate in the very nature of my heart. And here is the secret, my beloved. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. The person who hurt you may never know you have forgiven them. They may not care. They may be gone from your life or even from this earth. But when you forgive, you are not doing it for them. You are doing it for you. You are unlocking the door of a prison cell and walking out, leaving the jailer, who was you, behind. The person who hurt you may still be living rent-free in your mind, but forgiveness serves them an eviction notice. It reclaims the territory of your heart for my peace. How do you do this? You do it at the altar, with the wound and the incense of surrender already laid down. You speak it aloud, specifically, in my presence. Lord Jesus, by an act of my will, empowered by your grace, I choose to forgive. Name for the specific action. I cancel the debt they owe me. I release them from my judgment and my vengeance. I ask you to deal with them in your perfect justice and mercy. I cut the cord that ties my heart to this hurt. I receive your healing and your freedom now. You may need to do this many times. The first time, you cut the main cord. But memories may arise, and with them, little threads of residual bitterness. Each time, forgive again. Lord, I choose to forgive them again for this memory, for this pain. This is not a failure. It is the deep cleaning of your soul. When you forgive, you are not whitewashing the past. You are placing a cross between you and the past. You are saying, this happened. It was wrong. But I choose to let the power of the cross, the power of forgiveness, stand between that event and my present. I will not let it define me any longer. This final unbinding releases you into the fullness of the sacred exchange. Now, with the cord cut, you can fully receive the purpose I have for you. You can step into your new identity without the old chain around your ankle. You can love without the filter of old hurt. You can move forward without looking back. Forgiveness is your declaration that my resurrection life is stronger than the death they intended for your spirit. It is you saying, I will not be held down by the grave clothes of someone else's sin. I am alive in Christ, and I choose to walk in that life, unbound. So, my precious one, take a deep breath. Feel the weight of that debt in your hands. Now lift it up to me, place it on the altar, and with the sword of my spirit, cut it loose. Watch it burn away in the fire of my love. You are free. My precious one, we have come to a place of profound transformation. You have brought the wound to the altar, surrendered the need for vindication, engaged in the sacred exchange, and cut the final cord through forgiveness. Now what remains? Not a wound, open, raw, and bleeding, but a scar. And today we will learn the sacred art of living from this scar, not from the wound. This is the difference between being defined by your healing process and being empowered by your healed testimony. A wound is a present crisis. It demands attention, dictates your movements, and screams of ongoing damage. A scar is a concluded story. It is evidence that a wound once existed, but it is now closed, healed, and sealed. It is a mark of survival, a testament to the healing power that has worked in you. To live from the wound is to be perpetually in the moment of injury. To live from the scar is to carry the wisdom of the healing into every new moment. Look at my hands, my side. I bear the scars of my crucifixion eternally. They are not wounds. They are fully healed. Yet I chose to keep them. Why? Because they are my identity and my authority. They are the proof of the battle fought and won. They are the evidence of love's victory over hate, life's conquest over death. When Thomas saw them, he did not see ongoing suffering. He saw conclusive proof of resurrection. Your scars, offered to me and healed by me, are meant to serve the same purpose. They are not your shame. They are your badge of honor in my kingdom. They are not reminders of who hurt you, but proclamations of who healed you. Living from the scar means you have integrated the experience into the fabric of who you are without letting it control you. The memory is no longer a trigger that hijacks your emotions. It is a reference point in your history. When it surfaces, you no longer feel the searing pain, but perhaps a tender ache, a holy tenderness that keeps you compassionate and humble. This tenderness is not weakness. It is the soft strength of one who has been remade by grace. It allows you to feel deeply for others without being overthrown by your own past. Your scar becomes a source of authority. Just as I use the scars in my hands to authenticate my love and my victory, I will use your scars to authenticate your testimony. When you speak of my faithfulness, you are not quoting a theory. You are presenting evidence. You can say, here in this scar from my season of betrayal, I learned that God is my defender. In this scar from my loss, I discovered He is my comfort. In this scar from my failure, I encountered His redeeming grace. Your words carry weight because they are written on your very being. Your scar is your living scripture, a chapter of my gospel written in your life. This scar also becomes a navigational tool, a spiritual compass. Because you have walked through that specific valley, you now know its terrain. You know where the traps are, where the water can be found, how the light falls at different hours. This makes you a gifted guide for others who are entering their own valley of shadow. You are not guiding them as a tourist with a map, but as a survivor who knows the way. Your scar is the proof that you have made the journey and emerged. It gives others hope that they can too. To live from the scar requires a conscious shift in your inner narrative. You must stop saying, I am hurt because of what happened, and begin declaring, I am healed and strong because of what God has done with what happened. You must look at your scar in the mirror and bless it. Thank you, scar, for you are a monument to God's faithfulness. You are a seal on my heart that declares I am more than a conqueror. You are a reminder that my past is redeemed and my future is secure. This does not mean you ignore the scar or pretend it isn't there. It means you acknowledge it with gratitude, not grief. You touch it with reverence, not resentment. It is a part of your story, but it is not the title of your book. The title is written by me. Beloved, redeemed, healed, purposeful. So, my beloved, how do you practically live from the scar? 1. When memory arises, acknowledge it peacefully. Oh, that's the scar from that time. Thank you, Jesus, for healing me there. Let this memory make me more compassionate today. 2. When you are tempted to react from old pain, pause. Feel the solid, healed tissue of the scar. Remember it is closed. Choose to respond from the strength of your healing, not the panic of the old wound. 3. Offer your scar in service. When you meet someone with a fresh wound similar to your old one, do not hide your scar. Let it be a quiet promise to them. Your very presence becomes a living prophecy. Healing is possible. You will not always feel this way. You are no longer a victim of your history. You are a steward of your testimony. The scar is your proof. It is the sign that you have offered your wound and received my purpose in return. It is the mark that you have forgiven and been freed. It is the evidence that you are not who you were, and you are not what happened to you. You are a scarred and glorious vessel, carrying the treasure of my light. The scars do not diminish your beauty. They authenticate your story. Now go forth and live from this place of sealed healing. Let your life speak not of the wound you carried, but of the healer who carried you. Let your scar be a beacon, a landmark, a testament. For it is from your scars that my most radiant light will shine. My precious one, we have traveled a sacred path together. We have taken the old wound from the hidden place of burden and brought it to the altar. We have watched as the incense of surrendered vindication rose, engaged in the holy exchange, severed the final cord with forgiveness, and learned to live from the healed scar. Now we arrive at the beautiful, quiet truth that underpins it all. This is not a one-time ritual. It is the beginning of your new way of being. This is the continuous offering, a lifestyle of release. You see, the altar we built in your heart is not a monument to a single event. It is a permanent dwelling place for my spirit. It is always burning, always ready, always accepting what you bring. The healing of your old wound was the master class, the profound lesson that taught you the mechanics of my grace. But the classroom is now the world, and the lesson is your life. Every day, in ways both great and small, you will have the opportunity to practice what you have learned. You will have the choice to clutch or to release, to hoard or to offer, to be bound or to be free. This lifestyle is not one of grim duty, of constantly digging up new pain to surrender. It is a lifestyle of lightness and responsiveness. It is learning to recognize the quiet weights as they appear, not just the monumental wounds of the past, but the daily irritations, the sudden anxieties, the minor disappointments, the future worries that land on your soul like dust. Before they can accumulate into a new burden, you have learned the sacred practice of taking them to the altar. A frustrating interaction becomes a small offering of surrendered anger. A moment of fear becomes a flicker of incense, a release of that anxiety into my care. A feeling of lack becomes an act of trust, placed on the coals of my provision. This is how you remain free. This is how you walk in unburdened freedom as a sustainable reality. You become like a tree planted by streams of water, constantly drawing up life and releasing oxygen, not storing up the storms, but flexing with them and letting them pass through. Your roots are deep in my love, so you can afford to release your grip on everything else. The continuous offering is, at its core, a lifestyle of trust. It is the moment-by-moment affirmation that says, I am not the manager of this universe. I am not the protector of my own heart. I am the beloved child of a Father who is both good and sovereign. Therefore, I can afford to let go. You release your need to control outcomes. You release your right to understand everything. You release your timeline, your expectations, your demand for a pain-free life. You offer them up, and in return, you receive my peace, my guidance, my sufficient grace for this moment alone. This is what it means to take up your cross daily. The cross is the ultimate symbol of release. The release of my life, my will, my very breath. To take it up daily is to choose, each morning, the posture of the offerer. Father, today I release my agenda. I offer my plans, my relationships, my work, my fears. I hold them loosely. I present them to you. Shape this day as you will. Do not be discouraged when you forget, when you find your hands clenched tight around some new worry or old memory. This is not failure. It is invitation. The feeling of heaviness is your spirit's reminder, your internal altar bell ringing softly. It is time to release. It is time to offer. In those moments, simply pause, breathe, turn your heart toward home, and make the small, powerful choice. I let this go. I give this to you. Over time, this ceases to be a discipline and becomes a delight. You begin to crave the lightness. You start to recognize the sweet aroma of surrender, the scent of peace that follows release. You become attuned to the subtle ways I respond to your offerings. The unexpected peace, the sudden insight, the divine appointment, the gentle provision. The act of release becomes your primary conversation with me, the ongoing dialogue of love between a child and a father who can handle all things. This is the sustainable life. This is the healed life. It is not a life free from challenge or sorrow, but a life free from the permanent weight of challenge and sorrow. It is a life where scars are touched with gratitude, where fresh hurts are quickly offered, and where the heart remains soft, open, and light, because it is constantly being cleared of debris. So, my beloved, as we end this particular journey of words, know that your true journey is just beginning. You carry the altar within you. You know the pattern. Recognize, bring, release, receive. Apply it to everything. The old deep wound was your training ground. Now take that skill into the everyday. Let your life become a continuous living offering, a sweet-smelling aroma to me. A life where your hands are always open, your heart is always trusting, and your spirit is always free. This is my will for you. This is your act of worship. This is the secret of the unburdened